Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I am Molly and I do book content here on YouTube. And today, I am in denial about my April wrap up because we're not quite in May yet. So that will be coming next Saturday. All being well. It's not always on a Saturday, but that's usually the day I try to upload. So instead today, I am going to do a tag because it's Tuesday, although as I'm filming this. However, I won't be uploading this on Tuesday, so I'm not going to put it as Tag Tuesday because you're not watching this on the Tuesday necessarily. You might end up watching it on the Tuesday, but I'm uploading this on the Saturday, so I'm going to say it doesn't count for that, but it is still a tag. So yeah, I was tagged in this tag 7 months ago. Sorry, cat. But I'm finally getting around to it. I am going to be doing the Great Outdoors book tag. I'm not filming outdoors, even though it's actually quite a nice day today. But I don't really have privacy to be able to film. And also it's quite windy, so I'm just going to film inside. So you're just going to have to imagine that I'm surrounded by nature. I mean, technically you could say I am, outside of the house there is nature. So choose what you will with that one. But yes, I was tagged in this by Kat from Cat Stories. Sorry Kat for the late reply, I guess, of doing this tag. But we got there in the end. So yes, I'm going to get straight into it because there's quite a lot of questions. And yes, let's see how we get on. I'm interested to see what I say myself. The first question is, what was the last book you read outside? And I'm going by proper book, not my Bible. Sometimes I try and Bible study outside. It does depend. I like to do it as a way to get a bit of sun, so I don't always get to do it. We only get the sun in the mornings where I can Bible study in the garden, so I can't really do it. But I'm going to count this book. I don't usually read outside specifically. Sometimes I read outside because I'm like, I don't know, waiting for the bus. But I'm not counting those. I'm counting times when I'm specifically going outside to sit down and read. So the last book I did that with is this one, and this is Fallen Angels and the Origins of Evil. Why the Church Fathers Suppressed the Book of Enoch and Its Startling Revelations by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. This is a bit of a spoiler. I'll be talking about this in my wrap up. I read this book outside sometimes, literally just once. I actually finished the book whilst I was outside. And so yeah, this is the last book I read. I'm not going to comment too much on my opinions. I don't really know what they are because I have mixed feelings. There are things, a lot of it is just interesting, and then there are bits where I'm like, I'm not sure I agree. But I'll talk more about that in my wrap up. So if you're interested, because I know the Book of Enoch is a very interesting book, then stay tuned and watch my wrap up, which should be coming next week. Show a book cover of a beautiful nature landscape. So I have quite a few, no surprise, and I have no idea which one I want to use. Now, one of them is definitely this one. I mean, it's not a beautiful experience, what the picture is showing, but I do think it's a beautiful landscape, and that is the cover of The Wager, which is a non-fiction. Oh, and obviously I'm sure you can tell this is a non-fiction. So this is definitely one of those covers because I think that is a beautiful landscape. I know it's not land, so that's why it's just one of them. But I have 3 books that are beautiful nature landscapes, and I'm sure you can all guess what they are. Do you want to say it with me? Probably not. You might not actually know, because let's be honest here, I do buy books for their covers, because I don't have much space, so I don't necessarily want to be buying books that I don't necessarily like the cover of, because I can't necessarily buy multiple copies of the same book yet. But I'm going to go with these books. These covers of the Anne of Green Gables series that is done by the Virago Modern Classics. The whole series is beautiful and it's all in nature, all of the pictures. So we've got this one, which is Rainbow Valley. That's beautiful. Nature. Windy Willows. I mean, that is just gorgeous. I think that's my favourite. And then this one I just love because it's all autumnal and just autumnal colours. I love that. I love all of them, guys. We all know this. It's old news by now. But there we go. Those are some of my favourites. The next one is question 3. Name a book that you love that has a strong nature element. And honestly, I'm going to have to go back with... I'm going to use Rainbow Valley by Ellen Montgomery. I'm using it kind of as a stand-in for Anne of Green Gables, specifically that first book, because that one is very popular and everyone knows it's full of beautiful nature descriptions and appreciation of nature, and it just has a strong nature element. But I find all of the books in the series have bits of that, because Anne herself and then her children and other children that you see in the series all grow up loving and playing in nature. So you get a strong nature element in all of them. Maybe it varies with each book, but you still get that strong nature element. So Anne of Green Gables specifically, and then just the whole Anne series in general. Love it. No one is surprised by this. We all know it's my favourite. 4, name a book that you liked where nature is a character, so it's personified or it talks. I mean, I did want to say Anne of Green Gables again, but I don't remember it really being a character in that way, if you know what I mean. I don't necessarily see it personified or any talking animals or anything like that. However, there is a book that I'm currently reading that everyone will know and will probably agree with me on this, with it being a strong nature, where nature is quite a strong character certainly in this book. I assume in all of them, but I've not read the whole series. But I'm going with The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is the official first book of the Narnia series, but obviously there has been a prequel since this particular book was released. But I'm going with this book in particular because I know from the films and also through reading this, I'm over halfway. There is a lot of nature being personified. There's talking animals. I mean, you have the Mr. and Miss Beaver, you've got Aslan, possible Robin as well, although the Robin doesn't really talk, but it seems to understand things, so I count that. But yeah, you've got like fawns and stuff like that. So there's a lot of animals being personified and stuff like that. So I'm going with this one. And I am liking it, which is why I've picked it. Okay, question 5. No, that's not the right question. Where is your favourite outdoor reading spot? And I don't really have one because I don't really read out. I tend not to read outside because most places that would be nice to read outside, they don't have toilets. And that's not necessarily a big deal. I can go, behind bushes or whatever. But us women, we all know it's not that easy. And I just prefer to use a toilet. And most parks don't have them, so I don't really read outside. The nearest is my back garden. But again, I don't read much outside. Maybe at a cafe, if there's outdoor seating. So I don't really have one, but those are a couple of the options, I guess. Question 6. Book with a nature word in the title. I'm sure there's a few I could use, but the book that I decided to go to is a book I've not read, but it's classic, and that is The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, because mountain. Pretty self-explanatory, that one, isn't it? Question 7. A book that actually let's try that again. A book that actually taught about nature or animals. And I'm going to go with The Wager by David Gran, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny and Murder. This is non-fiction about a ship called The Wager. And yeah, it definitely teaches you about, sailing in the time of The Wager being around. This is in the 1700s, 1742. So it definitely, talks about, obviously shipwreck. So it definitely talks about that and kind of teaches you a little bit about that for those days. I don't really read books that teach about nature, so this is really the nearest thing. Or at least that I can remember. Doesn't mean I haven't, but I just don't remember. I've not really read much non-fiction about nature other than things like The Wager and also just school. So yeah. Question 8. Can you think of a book of survival in nature? And I'm using this book because, well, it does include this book technically, but I'm mainly thinking of book 1. And I'm going to go with the Hunger Games series. This book is Sunrise on the Reaping. They're all by Suzanne Collins. I'm sure everyone knows what this is, even if you've not read the books or even watched the films. A lot of the Hunger Games take place in different natural places. There's like water in some of them. There's jungles. There's more sort of dry, rocky, desert-style places. Although it wasn't really a desert, but I don't really know how else to describe it. So it definitely goes through those and about survival in those situations. I mean, it's not just because of nature, but they are in nature at the time, so I'm counting them, even though you could say some of them is not real nature, but some of them are, so I'm counting it. I'm going to count it, guys. So yeah, I'm going with the Hunger Games series, including Sunrise. Question 9. Do you have any nature-themed bookmarks? Yes, I do. I have a whole video on my bookmarks, although it's not an updated one, but I did update them in, I think probably some hauls. So I'll definitely link my bookmark specific video. The hauls, I'm not going to know which one, so I'm not going to bother with that. But I've not bought that many, so it's not difficult. It's not much different. Question 10. Name a book that reminds you of each of the 4 seasons. So, I actually have 2 books that remind me of winter. I'm using 2 of them. One of them is a book I have read, the other is one I'm currently reading. Although I'm going through it quite slowly, which probably isn't a good idea because it's a thriller, but there we go. So the thriller that I'm going to show you is One by One by Ruth Ware. This is set, I forget where, but it's a snowy place that's often a resort for ski resort type places. I can't remember where. I want to say the French Alps, but I could be wrong. I don't think it is the French Alps, but there are some French names, so it could be. But there's that one, lots of snow, set in the winter. But the other one is a book I have actually read and finished, and that is Snow and Rose by Emily Winfield Martin. This is a children's middle grade sort of book, based on the Snow and Rose story. And this is set in the winter, so there's a lot of wind, and there's also illustrations. So you do get some wintry situations, meals. You get, there's supposed to be a good one somewhere. If I can find it. Of course there isn't. Oh, ignore me. There is definitely winter involved, okay, guys? I'm just not finding any of the illustrations. But now I'm second guessing because what I'm seeing, I'm not really seeing much snow. Oh yeah, there you go. Right. There's this picture here. So there you go. You can see there's little footprints from the snow. So it's set in the winter, I think, or certainly kind of all year round. Anyway, it's I'm choosing this for winter / One by One. And then for spring, I'm going to pick Anne of Windy Poplars by Ellen Montgomery, because these blossoms remind me of the cherry blossoms, which are often out around April-ish. and that's considered spring still, so I'm going with this one for that one. Very springy. And then for summer, I'm doing Rainbow Valley by Ella Montgomery, because that reminds me of the summer, because it's all very green, very lush, and like playing in the river is giving me summer vibes, even though they probably have done it in the spring as well, but just hear me out on that one. And then lastly for autumn, I'm sure you can all see what's coming. Anne of the Island by Ella Montgomery, because look how autumnal that is. And all of the Anne of Green Gables books go through at least 1 or 2 years, if not more. So you do go through all of the seasons in each of them anyway, just in little bits sort of thing. So I could easily just count them all for all of the seasons. But yeah, I'm definitely going for those. Question 11. What is your favourite outdoor activity? I don't have one. The nearest is maybe walking, but it's not a favourite outdoor activity, okay? I don't like it. I do it, and I don't mind it in terms of other outdoor activities, but it's not really a favourite. I like to stay at home. Okay, question 12 is, do you think you can live off grid? And that is including things like electricity as well as lack of social interaction. And this is a difficult one, because a part of me is like, yeah, I think I could. It'd be difficult to adjust to not having electricity, but I think it would be possible, and I would be fine without social interactions. But I do think in some ways I would prefer to I would prefer to have electricity, because it would make things a bit easier in some ways. Certainly in terms of modern conveniences. So, you know, maybe. I like the idea of it. In practice, we'd have to see. Maybe. Okay, question 13. List a book for each of these settings. And the settings are desert, ocean, jungle, air, and mountains. So, for desert, I had a couple of options that I was thinking of. But the one I decided to go for is Noble by Mishu Andrews. This is book 2 in the King David's Bride series. This is biblical fiction. Brave would also count for this prompt as well for desert, because they do spend time in the wilderness, in deserts, as well as other places, and just drier regions of Israel and the surrounding areas, although it's more Judah, but, you know, Philistia as well as other places. So I'm counting this for that. Then for ocean, I'm going for the wager, because it just makes sense. There's a lot of ocean travel as well as islands, and living on islands as well. So the ocean is a very, very big theme in this. It's a reason for the wager and the shipwreck and stuff like that, of course. So I'm choosing this for the ocean element or setting. Then for jungle, I have a couple of options. So one of them, no, I don't have a couple of options. I've decided. It's fine. For the jungle, I decided to go with Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I've not read the book, but I've seen the films, and obviously, you know, I would call that a jungle. So I'm going jungle for this. Then we have air, and I decided to go for the Skyworld duology. This is book 1, Secrets in the Mist by Morgan L. Bushy. This is Christian dystopian sci-fi steampunk fantasy sort of book, but it has all of those elements in, because obviously the steampunk is kind of fantastical, but it is also kind of sci-fi, so, and it has zombies, so, you know, it has a little bit of everything. But this has blimps, as you can see, so you do have air travel, and obviously the air and weather is also a big impact on the travel here, so I'm going for this one, for air. And then for mountains, I'm having to go out on a limb here, because I don't actually know, but from what I've gathered, I think it counts. So I'm going with The Magic Mountain again by Thomas Mann, because I think this is set in the mountains or in a mountainous area. It does say that the sanatorium that this takes place in, or partly takes place in, is in the Swiss Alps, so obviously there will be mountains. So I'm going with this, and I hope I am right. It sounds like I probably am. Even if it's not completely in the mountains, I think there is some, or a lot. It's a big book, so it could be a lot. So that's what I'm going for the mountainous areas. Question 14. Name a book where weather is a major element of the story. And even though I do have options, I could say The Wager again. I could even say Secrets in the Mist. However, I am actually going to go for a book that I don't have physically. No. And it's also a book I've not actually read, but it's a book I want to read. And I can't remember the author's name, but the book is called The Storm, and I'll put it up here. I think it might be a thriller. It may be historical or dual timeline. I can't remember. But it sounded really interesting. As the title suggests, there's some sort of storm or monsoon type of weather, and it affects what's going on, certainly in the present timeline, because I don't know how recent the present timeline is. It could be like the 80s, and obviously we're in 2025. But either way, it's like the contemporary setting. And at the very least, maybe even in the past as well. But yes, from what I've heard of the reviews and what the synopsis says, the weather is a big part of the story. So I'm going to go for that one, for a book that I haven't already mentioned. Name a book with a strong snow or cold element. And I am going to go for One by One by Ruth Ware, because that is a very strong cold and snowy setting. It's set in the winter, and like I've already said, it's in a area where skiing happens, so there's a lot of that situation. So I'm going to go for that one. Question 16 is name a book with a major wildlife theme. And honestly, so there's a few books I could use, but I am going to go back to Sunrise on the Reaping specifically by Suzanne Collins. There's a lot of wildlife in this when you get into the games. There's rabbits, there's snakes, there's plants, there's trees and stuff like that. There's a lot of wildlife that hinges a lot on how they survive. So I am going to go for that one, because I would say wildlife is a major element in this book. So yeah. Question 17. What is your ideal climate to live in? So I live in England. We don't have a climate. So I think if I was realistic with myself, I would want to live in a climate like the one I'm currently living in. One that isn't massively boiling hot, where you can get wildfires regularly, but also a place that has weather, so you get the cooler elements as well. So somewhere like Britain is pretty good. We do have a good mix. We don't really have that many big natural disaster type of weathers, like monsoons, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunami type stuff. Any of those really big situations we don't really get. If we do, it's usually gone through a lot of other places before it gets to us, so it's a lot milder. So we get more like mild-ish sort of stormy weather, if anything. So I would probably say here, because we get a really nice mix. We do get hot weather, we do get really cold weather, especially depending on where you are in Britain. Some places are warmer or colder, depending on which part of the island of the UK that you're in. And obviously whether you're in the countryside or not also depends on that. So I think here, or certainly places that have our similar sort of climate or lack thereof, is definitely my preferred, because as much as I love the sun and warmth, I hate how it makes me feel, because I feel sweaty and sticky and too hot, and yeah, no thank you, not for me. Okay, question 18. What season do you read the most in? So do I read more in winter, summer, all of that stuff? And if I'm honest, I don't really know. I don't think about it. I just read as much as I can, as much as I want. So I haven't really noticed any specific seasons that I don't read much in or read more in. And sometimes there are situations where I do, so like if it's a really busy time, I might read a bit less perhaps, or if I'm not feeling well, then I might read less. But in terms of actual seasons, like summer, winter, autumn and spring, I've not really noticed anything. I might do, I might not, I just don't know. So sorry, that's my answer for that one, but there we go. And then question 19. What animal best represents romance, horror, fantasy, historical, and contemporary? So an animal for romance, I would probably say like your classic, probably a dog, or certainly like your typical well-known domestic pets like cats, dogs, stuff like that. Maybe even a rabbit, I don't know, but definitely something like that, because sometimes they're in books or on the covers, sometimes they're not, I don't know, but I would say those. And then horror. You see, part of me wants to say for horror dogs again, because, you know, I mean all animals, but especially dogs you see in horror films or books, you know, they notice a lot of things. But I don't want to say a dog, so let's think. An animal. I mean, it doesn't say it has to be a fantastical animal or like a realistic animal. Horror. I like ravens and bats. It's got nothing to do with that, but I think because they're both, you know, black feathered, and especially bats are often quite closely associated with horror, you know, certainly in terms of vampires. And so with ravens, maybe not vampires specifically, but certainly, you know, you might think of Edgar Allan Poe, or although that could be a crow, but I think it's a raven. But yeah, they can. I think, don't they signify death in some cultures or horror stories? So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with both of those, to be honest. I can't really pick one. If you want to get traditional, bat, but they're both pretty traditional depending on what you're thinking. So I'm gonna go for those. For fantasy, I'm gonna have to go classic and say dragon, because obviously. Then historical. Part of me wants to say horse. I mean, you've got to, haven't you? Can I think of something else that isn't a horse though? Because that is very just cliche. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's very true. They are, you know, very useful animals and were used a lot by people in the past. Historical. No, I'm just going to stick with horse. And then the contemporary, I mean, you could stick contemporary in with the romance, can't you, really? Just like your domestic pets. And that could be anything. Again, like I said, it could be, I don't know, a guinea pig, it could be a rabbit, dog, cat. Maybe a rat? I don't know. That's a bit horrible, isn't it? Maybe not a rat. I'm going to go butterfly for contemporary, something different. I mean, I'm sure butterflies aren't specifically contemporary living. I'm sure they've been around for a very, very long time. But I'm going to go for butterflies because I don't want to go for your classic domestic pet. Because again, with the historical, it's typical and it's the same thing. So I don't want to go for the same thing. So yeah, I'm going to go for a butterfly for something different. Not for any particular reason. When I think of contemporary, it's just something different. So yeah, those are what I imagine for each genre, apparently. And then the last question is, what book do you hope to finish before the current season is over? So we are in the season of, I would say, the summer now. There isn't necessarily any books I want to finish in this season. But I am in the middle of a book that I've been reading for quite a long time, like a year or maybe even getting on for 2 years now, I'm not sure. And I didn't get it out. but that is the Brothers Grimm collection. I am this way for this. I've read this much, so I've not got much compared to the whole book. I've not got that much to go, but I've not really been prioritising it, so I've got quite a lot to go yet. I mean, to be fair, it's only really this much that's the actual book. The rest is all like contributors and informants, which sounds very weird. But there we go. But yeah, I would like to finish this at least by the end of the year, at least. Even if I don't finish it by the end of summer. Just because it's been a long time, guys. A long time. So yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, those are all of the questions. There is another like extra bit that says to tag people. So the great outdoors, let's have a think. I'm not sure who's done it, so I apologise if you have. If you have done it, then, you know, just say so, and you don't have to do it. That's fine. You can even, you know, I don't know if you can give a link, but anyway, just say you've done it. It's fine. And obviously there's no pressure to do it now or anything. I mean, look at me. I did it 7 months after I was tagged. So no judgment here if you don't get to it straight away. I'm not good at that either. So who am I going to tag? Let me think. Lucy, have you been tagged in this yet? I'm not sure. You might have been. I didn't check who Cat tagged. So Lucy from Lucy Chronicles, if you've not been tagged, I'm going to tag you because I know you're doing Tag Tuesdays at the moment. So there's another one. If you haven't already done it, because you might have done, there's one for you. Let me think. Who else? Sammy from Sammy Reads. Have you done it yet? I'm going to tag you. I don't know how many people to tag. And obviously, if you've not done it and you want to do this tag, do consider yourself tagged. Even if I don't specifically say your name, please do it. You're welcome to it. To do it. I'm going to see if I can tag one more person. Do 3 people. Who is someone else? I'm going to tag Sarah from Sarah Collar. I don't know if you've done it, Sarah, but you do seem to really do a lot of nature stuff in your vlogs, like, you know, going out in parks and stuff. So I'm going to go for that one. I'm going to go for you. I'm going to tag you. Because I'd be interested. So, yes. Again, no pressure to do it straight away. Obviously, if you've already done it, then I apologise. And yes, if any of you want to do this tag and have not tagged you, please do. I would love to see your videos. Please do tag me if you've seen this tag through me. No worries if not, because I might be already following you anyway. But yeah, consider yourself tagged if you would like to do this. And yes, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to answer any of the questions, but you don't want to do a whole video, if you're not like a booktuber or anything like that, then please do answer the questions or one of the questions down below. I will try and put the questions in my description box. So, yeah, if you want to answer any of the questions, just have a look down below and then answer one or more of them. And if not, but if you don't want to answer a question and you can't think of anything to say, then leave a nature emoji. Any nature emoji. Could be a tree, a leaf, a flower. It could even be something like, you know, a little bit of a wave of the sea, anything like that, the sky, whatever you want to do, I will accept that. I mean, I'll accept any emoji, of course, within reason. Obviously, if you try and do something a bit rude, I won't accept that. But you guys are not like that, so I've been very blessed so far. Whilst I'm talking about you guys, I just remembered I have, I keep meaning to say this every time I do my video, and I always remember after filming this. But I have reached over 200 subscribers here on YouTube. That's really incredible. It's not something I expect. I don't do this to get lots of subscribers. I don't expect anything like that. I am very low-key with my videos. As you can see, I don't exactly have a very nice background. It's not terrible. I mean, it could be worse, but it's not very exciting, is it really? And my videos are very, easy and low-key. So I am really grateful for all of you who subscribed from the first to the most recent. I really appreciate you all and every subscriber. Even if you don't comment or regularly watch my videos, I still appreciate you clicking the subscribe button. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please do. And obviously like and leave a comment on this video, like I've said. I'm not going to do necessarily a celebration video like a Q&A, because I've already done that reasonably recently, and I think it's a bit too soon for that. So what I might do is, I was tagged by Sarah Collar actually to do the About Me tag that she's done. I think she's based it on similar tags that are based on the similar theme about yourself, but she's tagged me in her specifically, so I'm going to do that. And I'm thinking I might do that as my 200 subscriber celebration, so then you can all get to know me better and stuff like that. So I will probably do that in the next couple of weeks-ish, because I do have my wrap-up to do first, and I want to prioritise that over the About Me tag. So I'll probably do that after my wrap-up. So yes, stay tuned for that, and also the wrap-up for April. And yes, thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.